Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa. I am Gushin Garland, and tonight on the show we explore why Mozambique is burning, why tensions have escalated between neighbors Somalia and Ethiopia, and why is Elon Musk's Starlink launch getting delayed in the African continent. All this and more, but first the headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signals progress on the Gaza ceasefire deal. Netanyahu says his government is acting for the return of hostages but refuses to give a timeline. In Syria, thousands protest demanding protection for minorities after a Christmas tree was set on fire by purported foreign fighters in the Hamas city. A Russian cargo ship sinks in the Mediterranean Sea after an explosion on board. 2 crew members remain missing while 14 others have been rescued. At least 12 killed as blast rips through an explosives factory in northwest Turkey. Probe underway to determine the cause. Authorities rule out sabotage. And West African junta states of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger put security forces on high alert amid tensions, with ECOWAS on their extension of their imminent withdrawal from the regional bloc. Our top focus remains on the volatile situation in Mozambique. Tensions in the southern African nation are at its peak after the country's highest court validated the results of the disputed October 9 elections. Several protesters hit the streets again as the court upheld the victory of the ruling Frelimo party's candidate, Daniel Chapo. In capital Maputo, angry protesters and supporters of the opposition blocked roads and burnt tires.
We're tired of being enemies, of being the bad ones. The people are being beaten down. We are not fighting. How is it that someone who just finished high school has to fight to get into college?
The confirmed poll results by Mozambique's Constitutional Court put Daniel Chapo at the winning spot with 65% votes. This extends the Frelimo party's 49-year rule in the country. The initial results by the Election Commission declared his win with around 71% of the votes, while the main opposition candidate, Venancio Mondlane, received an upward revision to 24.2% of the vote. As per initial results, he secured 20% of the votes. However, he refused to accept the results, calling them fraud and accusing the Frelimo party of vote rigging. The Podemos party leader claims to be the winner of the October election. Mozambique's president-elect Daniel Chapo delivered a speech after he was confirmed as the new president. In his address, he struck a conciliatory tone, promising to reach out to Mondlane.
Once again, respecting what the Mozambican people are saying, that they want electoral truth, that they don't care about being governed by someone illegitimate, illegally. The Mozambican people demand that we remain firm, that we don't stop our struggle, and that we remain united and strong.
Opposition leader Mondlane, however, remains adamant against the poll results. He has vowed to continue his struggle and bring out the electoral truth.
Muito bem, estamos em direto.
Once again, respecting what the Mozambican people are saying, that they want electoral truth, that they don't care about being governed by someone illegitimate, illegally. The Mozambican people demand that we remain firm, that we don't stop our struggle, and that we remain united and strong.
50-year-old Mondlane is in a self-imposed exile since 2 of his associates were shot down in Maputo in October. It is unclear when he will return. However, he has been calling for an uprising and mobilizing protests through social media. Several of his supporters have been demonstrating nationwide ahead of the Constitutional Court's ruling. He threatened chaos and called for a complete shutdown. Mozambique has been on the edge amid weeks of protest poll violence. At least 130 people have been killed. Most of them were opposition demonstrators who were shot by security forces. Cities, mines, borders and ports have also been affected by protest action. Operations at Mozambique's main border with South Africa were also halted temporarily. This caused a major economic loss for both the nations. The unrest has disrupted some major business operations as well, while the economic outlook for the country has been downgraded by the International Monetary Fund. The chaos is also ensues at a time when a powerful cyclone Chido has hit the country, causing destruction, disease and hunger. It has claimed over 100 lives in the region. So while Frelimo's long reign continues in Mozambique, question remains: how will it tackle the cloud of challenges looming over it? Now, for more on this, we are joined by Botomelo Bensoniokane, who is a political commentator and an associate professor at the University of South Africa. He's joining us live from Pretoria. Mr. Soniokane, welcome to Firstpost.
Let me greet yourself and to the viewers.
The opposition has still refused to accept the Constitutional Council's decision, which retains the ruling's Frelimo party as the winner. Can the opposition still challenge the council's decision? And will this plunge Mozambique into greater uncertainty?
Look, the reality of the matter is that the problem that is in Mozambique is not a legal problem. It's a political problem that needs to be resolved politically. And we had thought by now that parties should have engaged one another and to meet one another somewhere in between. But clearly that, there is no willingness from both parties to engage. But we have hoped also that SADC and AU will come to the party and try to assist in facilitation of ensuring that there's peace and stability in Mozambique. But clearly where we are, there has not been any movement. Instead, what we've seen is that there's been an endorsement by players, political players and other countries within the SADC region.
Right. How has this disputed election and unrest impacted Mozambique's political stability and its economy?
Can you repeat the question?
Yep. How has this disputed election and unrest impacted Mozambique's political stability and its economy?
Look, we all hope that there will be, political stability very soon, because we will know that where there is instability, political instability, it affects also economy. Because you will know that the movement of goods in the SADC region, Mozambique plays a critical role in transportation of goods, in connecting different countries or parts of SADC and other parts of the continent. And then by virtue of, stoppage of transportation, movements of goods are therefore affected. And by implication, commerce or economics is affected. So we hope that this will be resolved as soon as possible so that borders are not affected. Movements of goods passing through Mozambique will become free.
Mr. Senokoane, over 130 people have already died and the streets in Maputo are on fire again. How can the government restore peace? And what role can Mozambique's powerful neighbors like South Africa and regional bodies like SADC play to prevent the violence?
What we are hoping for is that SADC and AU will move fast, including South Africa, in facilitating negotiation between parties, at least to call for calm for now, while parties open for possibilities of alternative ways of ensuring that they are able to resolve the problem. Of course, from where we are sitting, there is a concern that, of course, rigging has been proven. But beyond the proof of rigging, what also has been reconfirmed is that even if there was a recalculation, Chapo will still, win the elections against Mondlane. But what we need to do now is to see both parties maturing and sitting down and building a better future mechanism for future elections, so that what has happened now should never be repeated again. But SADC and South Africa and AU are very, central and critical in assisting all parties.
Mr. Senokoane, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now let's move on to the Horn of Africa, where tensions have once again flared between neighbors Somalia and Ethiopia, who recently signed a peace deal claiming to have ended a dangerous feud. But in less than a fortnight, cracks seem to have emerged in the Turkey-mediated deal between the two nations. Somalia has accused the Ethiopian forces of a deadly attack on its troops, and the attack comes just after Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan brought the warring neighbors together to the negotiating tables and signed an accord aimed at resolving the conflict. The Somali Foreign Ministry said that Ethiopian troops had attacked its forces stationed at an airstrip in the border town of Dulo, which is located in Somalia's Jubaland state. Somalia also said that the attack targeted 3 bases that were protected by the country's army, police and national intelligence and security agency, and said had caused several fatalities without giving a precise number. However, Jubaland state officials reportedly said that the Ethiopian forces who are stationed at the airstrip as part of a mission against Islamist insurgents intervened to protect a group of local politicians. The state of Jubaland is one of Somalia's 6 semi-autonomous member states. These states have often clashed with the central government in Mogadishu, either seeking greater autonomy or independence from Somalia. The latest clashes between Somalia and Ethiopian forces in Jubaland come as a Somali delegation led by the country's foreign minister arrived in Addis Ababa. This is the first such visit since the two sides signed a deal in Ankara to end the conflict pertaining to Ethiopia's port deal with Somaliland, which is Somalia's breakaway region that has been seeking global recognition. In the beginning of this year, landlocked Ethiopia signed an agreement with Somaliland to lease a port and a military base on its coastline. In exchange, Ethiopia offered recognition to Somaliland, and Somalia viewed this as a breach of its sovereignty. Now, as part of the Ankara deal signed by President of the Somalia and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, the two countries decided to de-escalate tensions and move toward peace. They also agreed on talks around Ethiopia ending its agreement with Somaliland in exchange for access to Somalia's ports. They also agreed to increase the trade between the two neighboring countries. However, the latest clashes have once again exposed the fissures between the two neighbors. Somalia says Ethiopia has undermined their Ankara agreement. It further added that Somalia would not remain silent in the face of violation of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. So will this standoff now put the Ankara deal that was aimed to bring peace in the Horn of Africa under threat? And now shifting focus, it looks like the rollout of billionaire Elon Musk's internet service Starlink is moving at a snail's pace in the African continent. Despite launching in Africa in 2023 with a plan to deliver fast internet, Starlink has reportedly delayed its estimated launch dates in 24 countries to 2025 from the present year. This has made launch dates in countries like Egypt and Morocco as unknown. Reports suggest that Starlink has only rolled out its services in 18% of the American countries where it had planned to launch in 2024, indicating that the growing hurdles it has been facing to expand in Africa. For now, Musk's satellite internet service Starlink is reportedly available in 14 African countries, including Botswana, Ghana, Kenya, Mozambique, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe. And Nigeria was the first country to adopt Starlink in 2023. But in countries like Angola, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, DR Congo, Senegal, Tunisia, and Uganda, Starlink plans have been delayed to 2025, while in some countries like Algeria, Ethiopia, Libya, South Africa, and Somalia, its parent company SpaceX has not yet announced a plan or a date to announce a planned launch date. South Africa's Starlink launch timeframe has been unknown since late 2022. Now, the delay in launch in several African countries have been for a couple of reasons. Starlink has been facing several regulatory hurdles, such as difficulty in getting licensed to operate in African countries, such as Namibia and Cameroon. Moreover, Starlink has also been facing resistance from state telecom monopolies in Africa, who see it as a threat due to Starlink's affordability and much better performance. But that's not all. Even in the countries it has launched operations in, including Botswana, Burundi, Ghana, Madagascar, and Sierra Leone in 2024. Things are not going as smoothly as planned. This is because the demand has been extensively high for the internet services in such countries. Unlike many developed markets across the world where Starlink offers services, countries in Africa have poorly developed infrastructure. And reports suggest that Elon Musk Starlink may have underestimated the demand for affordable internet services in these locations, which is not currently have the capacity to operate in. Now, this has forced Starlink to reportedly halt new sign-ups in several African cities due to overwhelming demand, and also suspend the subscription of its roaming plan that was being used in unlicensed countries. All these setbacks have raised questions on the future of Starlink in Africa. Question is, can the billionaire navigate these hurdles to deliver affordable satellite internet in Africa? Or will the regional players continue to have an upper hand? And finally, from Libya, where a severe cash shortage is forcing citizens to turn to digital payments. Bank struggles to provide cash, leaving people waiting for hours with little to show for it. Counterfeit currency and political instability add to the chaos, while many businesses still reject card payments. Despite these challenges, younger generations are leading a slow shift towards cashless transactions. But can this solve the country's financial crisis? Our final report dives deeper into Libya's cash crisis.
In Libya, cash is vanishing from the system, replaced by long lines, frustration, and now plastic. After more than a decade of war and instability, the country's financial system is teetering on the edge, forcing Libyans to reluctantly embrace card payments amid a dire liquidity crisis. Across cities, bank branches resemble battlegrounds, with crowds jostling for a shot at withdrawing their own money. But cash supplies often run dry before noon, leaving many empty-handed.
This card makes a lot of things easier for us, and I can use it in any shopping center. It is particularly beneficial for Libyan citizens who suffer from long queues. At the moment, we're still having problems getting this card because of the queues, but once we have it, it makes a lot of things easier. What's more, this card is recognized worldwide, and we can even use it in other countries, like the other nations of the world.
Yet the shift is far from seamless. Misrata's bustling markets are caught in a time warp where most vendors refuse card payments due to the lack of terminals.
The use of this card has become almost a necessity because of the shortage of cash. We have no choice but to adapt, but we still lack the culture of this form of payment and the infrastructure to use it. Today, there are still many places, such as certain shopping centers, petrol stations, hospitals, and bookshops, where we cannot use our bank card, so its use is still limited.
Libya's fractured central bank has added chaos to the mix. For years, rival administrations in the east and west issued separate currencies, creating confusion over counterfeit notes. Businesses now shun 50-dinar bills deemed unreliable, forcing the central bank to withdraw them by year-end. In a bid to restore faith, the Central Bank of Libya, or CBL, injected 15 billion dinars into circulation in October. A fresh deal with British company De La Rue to print 30 billion dinars promises further relief in 2024. However, for ordinary citizens, survival depends on adaptability.
It is true that electronic payments are still relatively underdeveloped in Libya, but the new generation wants to change that and adopt this method of payment. In fact, they are increasingly inclined to use this type of service to carry out their transactions, to the detriment of traditional methods.
And fuel shortages only deepen the crisis. Queues snake around petrol stations for miles, with vehicles waiting days for refills. The potential for a cashless Libya exists, but requires more than just ATMs and apps. It needs trust and stability. For now, cards are a lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. Libya's journey from hoarding cash to digital payments may be a rocky one, but it hints at resilience in the face of chaos.
That's it on the show. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thanks for watching. Hello and a very warm welcome.